Hey Lifers, Dustin here, and today I'm continuing my 2017 season preview videos talking about my Heisman Trophy 2017 watch list. These are the 10 players that I think probably, as of this moment, have the best chance to win the Heisman Trophy, arguably the greatest individual award in all of college sports. I will say, you never know. Last year at this time, none of us were talking about Lamar Jackson, and dude went off and won the whole thing. But as of right now, these are my top 10, and I mostly put them in order, but some of these are kind of like neck and neck to each other, so let's go ahead and get started with a very familiar face. In number 10, Lamar Jackson, quarterback, Louisville. Only once in history as a player won multiple Heisman trophies, and that's why Jackson starts off so far down on my list. Now, I also have to wonder, not only are the odds and the voting odds against him, I think most people would like a different Heisman Trophy every year, those kind of built-in biases. I also wonder, what is it he can do to possibly overshadow his 2016 campaign? Yes, he had over 5,000 total yards last year, which is insane. And he had 51 touchdowns that he was accounted for, which is insane. But his last 4 games were not good. In those last 4 games, he averaged less than a 50% completion percentage and less than 200 yards passing per game, although his rushing was still very good and very dangerous. Hopefully, Louisville added in some extra wrinkles into this offense this offseason, because at the end of the season, during that 4-game stretch, it looked like he had kind of been figured out. Yeah, he would still break containment and run down the field, and he was basically the most slippery runner in the country last year. But as far as executing the entire offense, he just didn't seem to. Once players and teams had more film on him and more time to prepare, they seemed to lock him down pretty good. And you have to wonder, now in 2017, they're going to have more than a dozen full games to be able to evaluate him, an entire offseason to try to figure out how to stop him. He is Louisville's only Heisman Trophy winner. I'm wondering what it is that they're going to do on the offensive side, whether it be more snaps under center, more drop back passes, using the tight end. I don't know, but they're going to have to do something in order to keep him from getting sacked, keep him probably from getting hurt if he's not careful, and certainly help his passing percentage go up. Number 9, Nick Chubb, running back, Georgia. Chubb already has the nationally recognized name that you kind of need coming into a season for a nice Heisman boost. He also plays in a premier conference on a team that looks like it should win the SEC East this year, but can he do enough to go above and beyond on this Georgia team in order to put himself and this team into the 10-win range into a New Year's Six Bowl? Because it may take that effort in order to get his name higher up this list. Some of the things that could help Chubb this season is if he can manage to break some of Herschel Walker's conference, school, and national records. We won't really talk about the fact that some of his bowl game records didn't count in that, but whatever. And Chubb may have an extra 2 games, including the SEC championship game, to get it done. He will also need to stay healthy, something that he hasn't always been able to do. Obviously outside of his control, but you have to be able to finish the season in order to win the Heisman Trophy. Also, don't lose to Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. That's important. Becoming the focal point of this offense, putting the team on his back and taking them to an SEC East championship and probably 10 wins is probably the only way that Chubb is going to be able to get the job done and bring Georgia its 3rd Heisman Trophy. Number 8, Bo Scarborough, running back, Alabama. If you didn't really follow Alabama last year, you may be surprised to know that Bo was not the Tide's leading rusher last year. He will be in 2017. He will be the bell cow that is given the rock 20 to 30 times a game, possibly, and have the offense on his back as Jalen Hurts continues to grow into his role. In my opinion, if Scarborough doesn't get hurt in the national championship game, Alabama beats Clemson. He's that important, and he's that good. He will have a premier game in week 1. If he can show out and run for over 100, maybe 150, catch maybe 1 or 2 passes and make some really great plays into the secondary against Florida State, this will probably move him up on the list immediately and get the hype train rolling. The problem is, and the reason why I have him so low, is he is going to be part of a very crowded Crimson Tide backfield, and this team has a running quarterback, specifically in the red zone. If he can get the touches, if he can get the yards, if he can dominate and share the backfield in a way that we saw former running backs like Derrick Henry do, then he very well could bring home the Tide's third Heisman Trophy for a running back in the last 9 seasons. Number 7, J.T. Barrett, running back, Ohio State. Barrett, of course, returns to Columbus this year for his 20th year with the Ohio State Buckeyes program. Obviously kidding, but it certainly feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like he's been here for a very long time. He is the leader of the team. He is a great rusher, a great playmaker, but at times down the stretch in 2016, it seemed like he lost his ability to really affect the game down the field in the passing game, and in the end, it hurt his team. Yet again, Ohio State is expected to be right in the thick of the Big Ten and national championship discussions with playoff berths on the line, big ticket games both in conference and out of conference this year, and if Barrett can put it all together, be the leader that takes this team that was so young last year and should be a lot better this year, takes them to the playoff, and leaves no doubt in anybody's mind who the best team in the Big Ten is, he could very well be Ohio State's 8th Heisman Trophy winner. Number 6, Jake Browning, quarterback, Washington. Browning is by far the largest reason that the Huskies got into the playoff last year. He had 3,400 passing yards and an absolutely insane 43-9 touchdown to interception ratio, while tacking on 4 rushing touchdowns just for the heck of it. He will miss the playmaking ability of John Ross, and he had off-season shoulder surgery, which is why he's a little bit lower on this list. But the schedule is not too terribly tough. Out-of-conference scheduling is once again a bit of a joke for Washington, but they do not play USC until the Pac-12 championship game. Obviously, if both teams make it that far, they don't play them in the regular season. Washington, once again, has a really good shot at going 12-0 if things can fall the right way, and that would definitely catapult Browning into the Heisman Trophy contention. He would be Washington's very first. Number 5, Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State. Barkley really broke into the national championship discussion last year while leading Penn State to the Big Ten championship in a Rose Bowl berth, while having nearly 1,500 rushing yards, 18 touchdowns, and 4 receiving touchdowns, and is one of the biggest reasons why the Nittany Lions are in playoff talk coming into 2017. Quarterback Trace McSorley will also get a lot of preseason Heisman buzz, but in my opinion, I think Barkley is the real deal and one of the engines of this offense, and I think he's going to get a lot more hype as the season goes on. He'll be shooting for his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard rushing season and will try to be Penn State's 2nd Heisman winner. Number 4, DeAndre Francois, quarterback, Florida State. I expect Florida State to win the ACC championship this year, which, depending on how many wins they have, or I guess how many losses they have, could help put Francois directly into the Heisman Trophy seat. He had to grow up a lot during the 2016 season, as he found himself on the turf a lot more than you would probably want if you are a starting quarterback in the ACC. Things hopefully will be a little bit easier on Francois this year. He will have a more improved offensive line, or should be more improved. He will get Louisville at home, which would be nice after the slam down that they gave him Florida State last year. He will also have, once again, a very talented running back unit, a very good defense, and a still really good coach in Jimbo Fisher. He finished 2016 with 3,300 passing yards, a 20-7 touchdown to interception ratio, and 5 rushing touchdowns. If he can start 2017 in a heroic effort, whether win or lose, if he can put up the numbers, if he can make the plays against Alabama in week 1, he could go right up to the top of this list. If he can stay upright, if he can win a lot of games, if he can be the leader that a lot of people expect him to be, he could be Florida State's 4th Heisman Trophy winner. Number 3, Darius Geis, running back, LSU. To me, Geis overshadowed Leonard Fournette last year in LSU's backfield, which is pretty hard to do. He had 6 100-yard rushing games, largely splitting time with Fournette for most of the season, and that includes 2 250 or more yard games. This year, it is the Darius Guy show, and he will be the centerpiece for an LSU offense that's going to have a very good defense, a pretty good schedule, and he will try to be LSU's second Heisman Trophy winner. Number 2, Sam Darnold, quarterback, USC. To be completely honest, it is really tough to pick between number 1 and number 2. Really, it's 1A and 1AB. They are really close in my opinion. It could go either way, and I really think that these are the two favorites. In 2016, as quarterback of the Trojans, a few games into the season, Sam Darnold absolutely lit the football world on fire. After losing against Utah in his first real game with action, Darnold led the USC Trojans to 9 straight wins, climaxing in a 453-yard, 5-touchdown game in the Rose Bowl. You really have to wonder what USC's season could have been in 2016 if he'd have started from day one. Well, in 2017, a more experienced Darnold will start in day one, and the future is bright for USC. They are openly talking about making their very first college football playoff appearance, and not playing Alabama in week 1 should help that. He could be USC's 7th Heisman Trophy winner. Really, their 8th. Reggie Bush still won it. Number 1, Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Oklahoma. Coming just 35 yards shy of passing for 4,000 yards in 2016, I put Baker Mayfield as my favorite because he completed 71% of his passes last season. He had a crazy 40-8 touchdown to interception ratio, had 11.1 yards per attempt, and set the all-time FBS record for passer efficiency. Not too shabby. And he should have plenty of showcase games against teams like Ohio State, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. Plus, perhaps a chance in the Big 12 championship game, the first one they've had there in a couple of years. I could also see them playing up the narrative that he had to overcome a coaching change from the coach that brought him there, and he was doing all of this with a first-year head coach in Lincoln Riley. If they can get into some shootout games like they did last year against a lot of Big 12 teams that don't have defenses, if he can shine in prime time against Ohio State and some of the bigger name teams, if they can win the reborn Big 12 championship game, and if he can take some of the votes from the East, some of the votes from the West, and get all of the votes from the Midwest, there is a chance that Baker Mayfield's redemption story could give Oklahoma their 6th Heisman Trophy. So there you go. There is my top 10 list. Really, it's between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield for me, but depending on what happens at LSU, depending on what happens at Florida State, that could absolutely change. And who knows, you could end up having somebody that comes from absolutely out of nowhere, like Bryce Love at Stanford, maybe some hybrid player like we had with Jabril Peppers last year, some guy who plays all over the field that we're just not on a national scale really looking at yet. Who knows? But now I turn it over to you. Who do you think is going to be the Heisman favorite coming into 2017? Who would you cast your very, very, very early preseason Heisman ballot for? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can click the circle right here in order to subscribe, or watch any of the other videos over there to the right that YouTube has suggested for you. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time. You're not good. In those last 4 games, he averaged less than a 50% completion percentage and less than 200 yards passing per game, although his rushing was still very good and very dangerous. Hopefully Louisville added in some extra wrinkles into this offense this offseason, because at the end of the season, during that 4-game stretch, it looked like he had kind of been figured out. Hey Lifers, Dustin here, and today I'm continuing my 2017 season preview videos talking about my Heisman Trophy 2017 watch list. These are the 10 players that I think probably, as of this moment, have the best chance to win the Heisman Trophy. Arguably the great different Heisman Trophy every year, those kind of built-in biases. I also wonder, what is it he can do to possibly overshadow his 2016 campaign? Yes, he had over 5,000 total yards last year, which is insane. And he had 51 touchdowns that he was accounted for, which is insane. But his last 4 games were... And get started with a very familiar face. In number 10, Lamar Jackson, quarterback, Louisville. Only once in history as a player won multiple Heisman trophies, and that's why Jackson starts off so far down on my list. Now, I also have to wonder, not only are the odds and the voting odds against him, I think most people would like a greatest individual award in all of college sports. I will say, you never know. Last year at this time, none of us were talking about Lamar Jackson, and dude went off and won the whole thing. But as of right now, these are my top 10, and I mostly put them in order, but some of these are kind of like neck and neck to each other, so let's go ahead.